All right, let's talk about the Michigan Wolverines. Look, fall practice is underway. We're starting to see what the Michigan football team is going to look like as we get ready for the 2023 regular season. Great polling results from the coaches poll. Michigan number 2 in the country, so a lot of momentum behind this program. But this team is going to have some young playmakers. They're going to have to step up, obviously. And there's one in particular that already is impressing a lot of key veterans on this team. And I think this would be great news for Michigan Wolverines if this young guy can step up.
Yeah, Nick, I think this story that you dug up is really great. I think Michigan fans are going to love this one because it shows how good this team is going to be this season. There's a lot of great games that are going to happen this year, so be excited to watch that. But Michigan fans, speaking of all the great games that are going to happen this season, let us know in the comments below, what game are you the most excited about? Obviously, we know there's that hated rivalry against Ohio State. That has got to be a big one. But let's go maybe outside of that one. What game are you the most excited about seeing this season? Let us know in the comment section below. But Nick, let's get on into it. Who is this special player at Michigan?
Look, I think we all know the defense is going to be really good for Michigan. They've got J.J. McCarthy, who's now a veteran quarterback, really coming into his own last season. Solid offensive line, good running game as usual. I think it's going to really depend on, and I think a lot of people see it the same way, is the depth of their wide receiver core. Do they have enough elite level playmakers to be a true national title kind of team? Because you're going to need that to beat a team like Georgia, obviously. Well, if you listen to quarterback J.J. McCarthy, there is one guy in particular that's standing out. We've got a report, Miles, if you want to go ahead and throw it up. This is from Wolverine Digest. All right. So directly from the report, Darius Clemens and Amorian Walker got all the fanfare last year as potential star freshman receivers, and for good reason. Both are north of 6'3" and physically look like prototypical pass catchers. But Tyler Morris, on the other hand, entered the season with a banged up knee at just 5'11", 185. But his pre-existing bond with McCarthy and overall skill set at the position earned him more snaps and more receptions than Clemens and Walker combined. Now Morris is healthy and thriving in year 2, and McCarthy has taken notice. Cornelius Johnson and Roman Wilson have spots 1 and 2 locked up, obviously, but with Rodney Bill gone, someone needs to jump into that wide receiver 3 role. It sounds like it might be Morris. J.J. McCarthy actually was quoted as saying, Tyler Morris, he's going to make a name for himself this year. That's like a special connection going back to high school. For those of you who aren't aware of J.J. McCarthy, before transferring down to IMG Academy in Florida, he did play in high school with Morris. All right, Miles, I think the fact that we're seeing an explosive playmaker like Morris off to a great start. He was banged up last year. He got some reps, got some snaps. Obviously, he wasn't their number 1, number 2, number 3, or frankly, even number 4 receiving threat. But don't be surprised, in my opinion, if this guy keeps climbing up in terms of the targets and the snaps. They need an explosive playmaker, another explosive playmaker, excuse me. And I think Morris could be the guy to fill that role. But I'll throw it over to you, Miles. What do you think of this report and just everything going on with Michigan right now?
Yeah, Nick, I think this is a really great report. It just shows how explosive this offense could be. But I think what you touched on, these guys, not only did they go to high school together at Nazareth Academy, it was the last season that J.J. McCarthy played there, his junior year before he switched over to IMG, would have been Morris's sophomore year. And not only did they play together, they thrived. He had over 1,700 yards of total offense. I'm talking about Morris here, and 24 touchdowns as a sophomore. They absolutely had a special connection. That is something incredible if you think about it. And this guy's also a gifted athlete. He won the 15-16 high jump at the AAU Junior Olympics in 2018. So this guy's got the hops. Even though he might not be the tallest guy in the bunch, he can go up and get them. But I think this is a special connection because I think McCarthy even goes on to talk about how he feels like he could throw it on the money to this guy blindfolded. They have such a special connection. So I look this season for McCarthy to be going towards Morris early and often because it seems like just two guys who have something. It might not be obvious on the surface. It might not be something that we can all see, but they have something together, and having a special connection between quarterback and receiver is something that we cannot overlook, Nick. I think this is going to be huge for them going forward because I think that is going to put them over the top. Having McCarthy be comfortable is going to be a key here for Michigan, don't you think?
Yeah, 100%. And what I was going to jump into there is we see it in the NFL game where a lot of former college teammates really like to link up, especially quarterback and receiver at the next level, at the professional level. I think the biggest example of this is Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, both from LSU, did a lot of great things there. Now they're linked together for the Cincinnati Bengals. I think we're going to start seeing more of that kind of design at the college ranks as well, because like we talk about all the time in the show, major college football is resembling more and more and more the NFL game, both stylistically on the field, roster construction, strategy, things like that. It's moving much more in that direction. So I think you're going to see a lot of coaches and a lot of recruiting coordinators try and work on getting quarterbacks and receiver combinations that were successful in high school at good quality programs like these two guys were, and getting them paired together at the collegiate level. That's what we saw, of course, with both McCarthy and Morris now joined together at Michigan, going back to last season when Morris joined the squad. But I think the fact that Morris is healthy will really give JJ McCarthy a chance to really unload him, because that's going to be the big part with McCarthy. We know he can do a good job in a classic game manager kind of role, even though that's not really his deal. We know he can take over games in the clutch when needed to. Now we need to see him take the next step and get to the point where he can just obliterate teams, where he can have those crazy games where he can throw for 400 yards multiple weeks in a season, where he can have a lot of 4 or 5 touchdown games. Because that's the reality. In order to compete at the highest level of college football, you need to have a guy like that. You need to have a Bryce Young. You need to have a Caleb Williams. You need to have a CJ Stroud, if Michigan fans will excuse me for bringing an Ohio State Buckeye into the conversation. You need to have a guy like that in order to win national titles. JJ McCarthy can be that guy if he has the right weapons working with him. And the fact that he has Morris back into the fold and he really likes what he's seen so far, I think is a great sign that McCarthy could be that kind of guy this season.
Yeah, Nick, and we look back last season, you think about what Michigan could be. We can't even really talk too badly about it. Like, there's a lot of room to improve because they made it to the college football playoff. Yeah. I mean, there's not too much further they can go other than the championship game. But we see what happened. They go back and forth between Cade McNamara and JJ McCarthy, going back and forth. So that whole last season, he didn't really have a whole lot of time to bond with any of these guys. Now he gets a full season under his belt. He's been anointed as the guy. McNamara has gone to greener pastures. McCarthy's the guy. They know his athleticism was much better than McNamara. He's that explosive playmaker you talked about. So I think having a full season and not having to look over his shoulder like, will I win the starting role this week? Will I not be the starter this week? I think that is going to build his confidence as well, on top of Morris being back. So I think this season really has big implications for the Wolverines.